Hello guys, I am back from another video and today we talk about what if Deku was in high school DxD. So in the last video we talked about how after, leaving breakfast with the rest of, the rest of like some of the spirits that didn't really get any familiars as they left to go to the familiar forest. After arriving there, they would meet up with the familiar master, which kind of resembles Ash Ketchum if Ash Ketchum did some bad decisions and became an alcoholic. And probably a chain smoker as well. I forgot about that part. Anyway, so after telling them the rules about the, familiar forest, they would basically start to leave and would start to find their familiars. After a while, Izuku would basically tell them that he's going to be going on his own. After saying that, they would decide to allow it, specifically, Sona, and so he would start to leave. After arriving at a cave and also, finding a large dragon, mixed with a wolf creature, aka kind of resembles a Cerberus, but if the Cerberus was half dragon. And would so, a fight would ensue. When the fight started, it seems to have the ability to, shoot off blasts that kind of resemble, the powers of destruction from, from the, the Surgeon's clan. Not really. I mean, it's kind of like similar to, to the Grimby clan, sort of. Like, basically the ones that literally have a similar ability to the power of destruction. And so, when the fight, was about to end, he would basically finally, broke some of the scales, which was preventing him from basically getting the DNA of it. And would basically use his Quinke, and would basically stab the, thing into the side, allowing him to basically get its DNA, and finally defeating him. After doing so, he would decide to turn it into his familiar because after a while of fighting, he would think that it's probably pretty strong and so decide to turn it into his brand new, familiar. After doing so, wait for a second, I'm about to freaking... So, after doing the ritual and finally making it his, brand new, familiar, he would decide to name it Zenogre, which, yeah, it's basically just a three-headed Zenogre, more specifically what is that called, that variant, the one with the, red electricity, I can't remember the actual name of it, but, if you can, remember it, just comment down below for me, okay, good. So, after leaving, he would basically, arrive where the spot, like, at the spot where supposedly, or at least, where, the rest of the group is. And after arriving back, he would see a knocked out Saji, and two of the girls, specifically, both, Tsubaki and Sona are currently, currently dealing with a perverted ass slime. And so he would decide to stop it by using some of his power and, and his brand new, familiar to basically stop it. After doing so, they would defeat the large slime and defeat it instantly. And as for Tsubaki and, Sona, apparently the slime had this, acid effect, which would cause her, both of their clothes to basically disintegrate. Which, Izuku decided to just, look away for them to basically, wear something else in the meantime. Which Izuku decides to, Izuku decides to just grab, his coat, or at least something of that sort. I mean, at the time, I just imagined him just wearing his, school uniform. And after doing so, everybody would basically start to leave. And after doing so, we currently see them back at, currently back at the, the Citri household. And after telling everybody, specifically, Sona, basically telling everybody that it's time for them to get some sleep, because tomorrow is going to be the, rating game between Riser and, Ria's peerages. After saying that, everybody would start leaving to go to, to the, rating game. After doing so, we currently see, Izuku and Sona basically deciding to sleep in the same bed, which caused Tsubaki to think in her mind that maybe when she, after their honeymoon, after they get married, why not she would have a bit of fun with him, she would start thinking in her mind. But either way, after doing so, all of them would basically fall asleep. So yeah, that's basically what happened last episode. And so, let us talk about what happens next. So, As everybody's waking up, we currently see all of them basically wearing some, I guess could say formal clothing, because it's finally the day of the raid game between Rias Grummery and Riser Phoenix. While Izuku's basically, basically like tying his tie, he would say to himself, this is certainly going to be an interesting one, he would say to himself. I just hope that, Riser doesn't do anything with, he would start, becoming a little bit worried towards, his childhood friend, aka, Issei, as he would say this. I just hope she doesn't get, hurt, he would say to himself. As after saying that to himself, he would think, yeah, I just hope, he would say. As after wearing his clothing, he would, just imagine something like he's basically wearing like something that, D-Look would wear. Yeah, just imagine just wearing like, a tie and stuff like that, floofy, whatever you want to call it. I can't remember the actual name, and I don't really want to, say the wrong thing, because I was about to say that it's going to be an ascot, but I'm probably saying it wrong, so yeah. So, anyway, after wearing, something that D-Look would wear, he would basically start to get out of there and would basically grab his, Quinke in its, sealed form, I guess you can say, as he would put it in its, compartment, or more specifically, the, suitcase. After doing so, he would basically come out as everybody would see him. As, Tsubaki would say this. Wow, you absolutely look, quite handsome, she would say. As Izuku would say this. Thank you, he would say. As, Saji would say this. Yeah, you look pretty good. As he would start, looking him out. As he would say this. Hey, about your glasses, he would say. As he would say this. Oh, I don't really need to wear them. Besides, I mostly use them for fashion, he would say. As one of them would say this. That would explain why it's red, one of them would say. As he would say this. Anyway, so, where's Sona, he would say. As one of them would say this. Well, she's still pretty much in her room still. As one of them would say this. We should probably wait for her for now. As after literally right after saying that, they would hear the sounds of footsteps. As after looking back, they would see Sona basically wearing a simple, dress, which caused Izuku to basically start to blush a little bit. The dress was, just a simple ass dress with, with no straps. Instead, it's basically being strapped to her neck. And it would also have an open back, which, caused Izuku to start thinking of some, let's just say interesting ideas to say the least, as he would start thinking to himself, no, I'm not thinking about that. Seriously, like he would start saying to himself, I'm not gonna say it, and by the way, I'm really sorry last time that I literally had to turn off, or at least erase my video, because at the time, it apparently thought it was for kids. For kids, apparently. I mean, I can definitely see why, but still. Now I just have to put in swears in my videos now again. So yeah, to make sure that, YouTube doesn't think it's a freaking, something that, kids would actually, actually watch. And by the way, YouTube, put it into YouTube Kids. I know that it's supposed to be for, nobody uses YouTube Kids anymore. Well, apparently something, that, I don't know, maybe, how do I say this? Promote it a little bit more. And maybe, I don't know, at least do something with that. Seriously, what the fuck? Anyway, continuing on with the episode, as after walking in, she would say this. Now, we should probably get going. After all, the raiding game is about to start, she would say. As Izuku would say this. Right, he would say. As after saying that, Saji would say this. Oh, you seem a little bit flustered, Izuku, as he would say this. Oh, shut up, he would say. As after saying that, Tsubaki would say this. I think you made him quite flustered, she would say. As, Saji would say this. Yeah, I guess so, he would say. After saying that, all of them would basically go into the, summoning circle, and they would start to be, teleported away. After doing so, the rest of the, the rest of the other, family members, specifically, yeah, what are their names exactly again? Miss and Mr. Citri would also go with them, basically going in a different, a separate teleportation circle, I meant, not summoning circle. And so they would be teleported away. So, after a while, basically, traveling, he would say this, specifically Izuku. So, when are we gonna get there? He would say, as, Sona would say this. Just wait for a few minutes. After about 5 minutes, they would arrive at where their supposed, rain game would start. After, realizing that that they arrived, Izuku would say this. Huh, looks pretty nice, he would say, as he would look around, seeing that the place kinda resembles a coliseum. With, the simple, like, I guess you could say, marble, walls, which, I mean, it does sort of resemble, like, a Roman coliseum, but except, a little bit more modern. As one of them would say this, specifically, Saji. Yeah, looks pretty cool, he would say. As one of them would say this. So, where are we supposed to go? As, Sona would say this. Let's move forward, she would say. After saying that, Izuku would say this. Oh, sure, Sona, he would say. And so, all of them would start moving to go, towards where the supposed, raiding game would start. So, after, a while basically walking, he would basically arrive to the, I guess you could say, the stands. As everybody would basically sit down, as, Izuku would say this. So, this is where the raiding game would start, he would say. As, Sona would say this. Yes. Now, she would, come closer to him as she would say this. Izuku, she would say, as Izuku would say this. Yeah, Sona? As she would say this. Can I, lean on your shoulders, she would say, as Izuku would start to blush as he would say this. Sure, he would say, as he would start, laughing a little bit, chuckling, like an awkward chuckle, to be more specific, as she would say this. I guess so, she would say. And after, basically leaning on his, shoulder, basically using her head, everybody would just, look at them, specifically the rest of her peerage, as one of them would say this. Well, that's bold, said one of them, as, Sona would just glare back at them as she would say this. Don't you dare ruin this moment. That, just imagine something of that, just imagine something of that sort, as it would cause some of her peerage members to basically back off. After doing so, she would basically continue, on Izuku's shoulder, as after doing so, Izuku would say this. Well, certainly our relationships have sort of gone up, he would think in his mind, as he would shake that thought off, as he would look towards, to the battlefield, which oddly freaking resemble, the, Kuo, as in, Kuo High, or whatever you want to call it at this point. So, after, looking at the so-called battlefield, he would also notice some really small details, like, for example, well, for some odd reason, he would notice some, bloodstains for some odd reason. As you start thinking in his mind, it's probably where, where Issei used to, perv on some nearby basketball members, he would start thinking in his mind. As he would just sweat drop a little bit as he would look towards, some other areas, like, for example, school, and also, he would also see his classroom for some odd reason, as you would also notice, some much more smaller details, like, for example, his desk having a little bit of, writing there, which he used to, just pass the time. Like, for example, he actually carved, a little piece there that used to say, and I quote, let's have some fun, with, a smiley face. And after thinking about that, he would say this. Yeah, that is certainly a fun time, he would say to himself. As after saying that, he would start shaking his head as he would see, Mr. and Mrs. Citri basically arriving, as one of them would say this. So, it seems that you're quite close now, said, Mr. Citri, as Izuku would look at them, as he would say this. Yeah, Mr. Citri, he would say, as he would say this. Oh, don't worry. Besides, we won't tell, especially her sister, he would say, as, a pretty flustered ass, wait for a second. A really, really flustered, Sona would say this. Can you please don't tell, you know, Seraphol about this, she would say. As, one of them would say this, specifically her mother. Yeah, we promise. Besides, the teasing would probably, turn you into nothing more than mush, she would say. As she would start blushing even more, as Izik would say this. Just ignore them, he would say. As she would say this. Yeah, you're probably right. After saying that, they would basically, do, do what they do. As in, they would just continue. After doing so, both, Sona's parents would decide to sit, right next to Izuku. As, one of them would say this. Well, he's certainly having fun, he would say. Specifically, specifically one of them would say this. Specifically, her, mother, as in, Sona's mother. As for, her father, she would say this. Yeah, it seems so. It kind of resembles just like us. Back when we were young, he would say. As she would say this. Yeah, she would say. After saying that, they would hear the announcement would start. Ladies and gentlemen, like a, announcer would say, we're here for the first. And not only that, the first ever battle between Riser Phoenix and his soon-to-be, or not really wife, not Riser, wait for a second. Ria's Gremory, he would say, the announcer, as one of them would say this. It's time for the rating game to begin, so prepare your peerages, he would say, the announcer, as after saying that, several people would basically be teleported, as you would notice that it is, the group of, of Ria's Gremory, aka Ria's Gremory's peerage, as he would look and would see, well, his, childhood friend, Issei, basically getting ready, as her gauntlet would basically appear in her hand, as she would say this. Now, let's show them, Drake, she would say, as he would hear the sound of a female voice coming off the gauntlet. Yes, Issei, she would say, as after saying that, one of them would say this. So, it seems that the Gremory girl seems to have the Red Dragon Emperor on her side. Or should I say the Red Dragon Empress, one of them would say. As, after saying that, Izuku would say this into his mind. I hope that he doesn't do anything weird with her, he would say to himself. As, after saying that to himself, he would see that the battle would finally start. So, just imagine it just like in the anime, where the basically, the fights were basically just like, the same. Until the last part. So, after a while, basically, like Issei basically taking down some members of the, Riser's peerage, and for some odd reason, Kaneko would actually, survive this. But in exchange, Asha would unfortunately be beaten to a pulp. Yeah, they didn't really protect her, so thankfully, she was brought to the medical bay to basically be treated. Because the pods basically got to her. So, wait for a second, god damn it, my nose. So, as, they were basically, like, going towards the center, which is where the actual battle is, Rias and also, Riser are currently battling out, while Rias is using her blast of energy, specifically the power of destruction, at Riser. As he would say this, ha ha ha, just face it, you're not as strong as Riser, he would say, as he would start shooting off blasts of fire. As after doing so, she would basically dodge it away, as she would say this. Like I said, I'm not gonna bury you, she would say, as she would start, shooting off more blasts, as while Izuku was saying this, he would say this to himself. Huh. I mean, she is strong, but... As he would start thinking in his mind, but not as strong as Riser. Not only that, her battling style, and not only that, her, well, her reliance on her, bloodline ability is certainly quite the tick-off, he would say to himself. As he would start thinking in his mind, she shouldn't have trained or something of that sort. I mean, she is the daughter, or at least the sister, of the great, Mao, specifically Lucifer, he would start thinking, like, thinking to himself. As after a while of thinking that, he would see, the rest of her peerage basically arrive, as he would say this. Ha! You really think that you could actually beat me? Especially with the rest of your, peerage? Don't make me laugh. Riser is certainly stronger than any of you, he would say, as he would shoot off a blast of fire, as Kiba would basically dodge it, as Kiba would start charging towards him, as he would say this. Don't you get... No, I meant, wait for a second. Don't you even dare try and fight me, he would say, as he would get ready another punch, with, flames infused with it, as when he's about to do it, Kiba would basically launch a sword thanks to the help of, sword burst, and would basically slice off his arm, causing Riser to basically jump back. As after doing so, he would basically regenerate his arm, as you'd say this. You think that I would actually lose? You damn brat, he would say. Riser is stronger than any of you, he would say, as he would start thinking in his mind. Is he really saying all of that? He would start thinking in his mind. I mean, I'm much more stronger, he would say. Especially with my brand new upgrade, he would say, as he would start, shooting off sparks of well, not really sparks, but more like, causing a little bit sparks of his, thanks to the help of his fingers, as he would start creating little sparks of destruction energy, or whatever you want to call it. As while he's basically, doing this, he would notice, a few people there. Specifically, red-haired, blue-eyed people. As you would notice them, he would think, oh my god, let me guess, they're the family of, Rias, he would start thinking in his mind. As he would notice another person there. As his eyes would be widened, as you would notice that this person is the brother of Rias. He would notice that it's Sergius Lucifer, one of the great four Mao, and not only that, the Lucifer of this era. As he would say this to himself, I guess he decided to join in to basically take care of his sister, in case if the battle goes on, and probably is rooting for her, judging by, well, he would start looking towards them, as he would seem to have two flags with, with the face of Rias, as he would start cheering for her, saying, go, go, sister, he would say, as he would start thinking in his mind, yeah, Sister Con, he would say to himself, as after saying that, he would say this to himself, are all of the great now, just Sister Cons, or at least little sibling cons, he would start thinking in his mind, as after saying that, he would look towards, the still fighting on battle, as he would see, Kaneko basically still fighting with Riser, while Kiba's basically, slashing at him. As for, Akeno, she would start creating blasts of lightning from the sky, as he would start thinking in his mind, yeah, I should also get some DNA from them as well. Maybe. And I'm also quite curious to himself, as he would remember what Jack said, as he would say this. So, I'm also going to be giving you this thing as a sacred gear, and trust me, you will get it soon, but I won't even tell you, because it's kind of a surprise, and a flashback, as he would say this to himself. I wonder what is my sacred gear, he would think in his mind, as he would start looking at his arm, as he would think this. Not right now. I should probably continue watching. After a while of watching, the battle would still rage on, as Issei would start using boost, start using his, using her boosted gear, as she would start creating blasts of energy, calling them explosion blasts. Which, I mean, why though, he would start thinking in his mind. As while the fight was raging on, Riser would just heal from any wound that basically was caused to him. But during the fight, he would also notice something else. Riser seemed to have something in his pocket. As he would start to think, oh my god, don't tell me that he has... As he would start to remember something. Apparently, there's these things known as Phoenix Tears, and he's been wanting to maybe get some of that. Mostly to replicate it, and maybe even, use it to the advantage for his, for the rest of his, I guess you could say peerage members, in case of another battle happening, or something dangerous happening. And so, after a while, he would also notice, his sister basically arriving there, and she would give him something. A bottle. A bottle. Or bottle. A bottle of of liquid. More specifically, as he would say this to himself. Phoenix Tears? As after saying that, Riser would basically grab it and would basically start healing himself thanks to the help of the Phoenix tears that he drank. As he would say this, don't you even think that you can actually beat me, the great Riser Phoenix, he would say. As after saying that, he would start shooting out more blasts of fire, but this time much more stronger, thanks to him basically now healed. Thanks to the help of the Phoenix tears, to be more specific. As while he's shooting off blasts, Issei would basically, be in direct attack by, by Riser's, blast of fire, which would, scorch her a little bit, causing a bit of burns on her body, which, caused Izuku to become a little bit mad. As, Rias would say this, "Don't you dare," she would say, as she would start shooting off more blasts of destruction. As after doing so, he would start regenerating from them, as he would say this. He would say, "You really think that you can beat me?" He would say, "Now, you will be my wife, Rias Gremory," he would say, as he would shoot out more blasts, which, Issei would basically cut down with the help of his, or her, sacred gear, as she would start using boost, and boost more, as she would basically give it to, Rias, which caused her to create, a much more stronger blast of, energy, as after doing so, the blast would be, shot forward and would slam, instead, into Ravel, which apparently is the name of, Riser's, sister. After doing so, it would cause her to basically fall to the ground, basically injured. As after doing so, the, announcer would say that, I can't remember her piece, let me just check. Actually, I can't really find any information on what piece she was, so I'm just gonna guess that she's probably, a bishop. Let's just say that. So, as when she did so, she would basically lose. As for Riser, he's the only one left. As he would say this, "No matter what, you can't beat me," he would say. As Rias would say this, "Well then, if you, can't be, if you can't lose, then why not the deal," she would say. After saying this, everybody would just be intrigued, as he would say this. "What? You really think that you could actually beat me? I'm, Riser Phoenix. I'm the strongest out of all of you." As after saying that, she would say this. I mean, you're not wrong, but can you beat someone from any of these stands?" she would say. As he would say this. "Oh, I could easily beat them," he would say. As she would say this. "Well then, how about..." She would start looking around as she would look towards Izuku. As she would say this. "How about this? If you beat this person in a one-on-one duel, then I'll marry you. And not only that, I'll probably even let you do things to me," she would say with an angry tone, as he would say this. "Oh really?" he would say. "Well, that certainly intrigues me." As she would say this. "But if you lose, you'll no longer have to, marry me. Not only that, if you dare get in my way, or even dare try and, do anything else, or even try to trouble my peerage, you'll be banned from any, and I mean any, type of, fighting, or any of that sort," she would say. As after hearing this, he would say this. "Deal," he would say. As after saying this, she would say this. "Now, I want you to fight off, or at least fight," as she looks towards Izuku, as she would say this. "Izuku Midoriya, the somewhat peerage member of Sona Citri," she would say, as he would say this. He would start laughing a lot, laughing like a madman, as he would say this. "What? You really think that Riser's gonna be fighting a pathetic human?" he would say, as Izuku would say this. "Ah, great," he would say in his mind. As after saying that, one of them would say this, specifically, her, aka his somewhat, bride-to-be, aka, Sona, as she would say this. "Wait, Izuku, are you actually..." as he would say this. "Well, it seems that I have to fight him," he would say, as she would say this. "I guess so," she would say, as Izuku would say this. "Well then, wish me luck," he would say, as she would say this. "I guess good luck." she would say. After saying this, he would start getting ready to go towards, to the arena. After doing so, he would basically jump off the balcony, or I guess you could say the stage, or not really stage, but more like the, sitting area, as he would basically start to summon out his Ukaku, which caused everybody to be in shock, as Riser would say this. Ha! So he's not human, he would say. Riser thinks he's quite interesting, but not enough for me to basically let him be in my peerage. As after doing so, he would basically float back down to the ground, as he would say this. So, I'm gonna be fighting you, eh? He would say, as he would say this. Yeah, it seems so. Now, prepare to lose, he would say, as more flames would basically appear around him, as he would say this. I guess it's time for me to have some fun and let loose, he would say. As after saying that, something would start to happen. As he would start to sprout out all of his, Kagane, which were his Ukaku, Kokaku, Rinkaku, and Bikaku, which caused everybody to just be in shock. Several tentacles made out of this red energy with the ends of their tentacles being like this, sharp rows of teeth, or more specifically, a mouth. As one of his arms seems to be covered in this weird looking, armored arm or armored hand with a blade attached to it. As he would gain two large wings that seem to be, floating in the wind, with several eyes basically looking at Riser with hunger and rage. As not only that, his tail seems to be, getting ready to stab him right in the stomach or something of that sort. While these things, which, if you're wondering, well, they're also eyes. These freaking things, they're apparently eyes. Yeah, that's what I imagined them as, being. And they seem to be looking at Riser with the intent to kill. As he would basically grab his, not Kagane, I meant his Queen K, as he would say this. Now, he would say, let's have some fun, he would say with a, with a sadistic grin. As his eyes seems to, his eyes would start to change a little bit, causing everybody to see his sadistic smile even more, with his manic grin basically on display. As one of them would say this. So, that's Izuku, she would say to herself. As one of them would say this, specifically, one of the peerage members of Riser. Wait, does he really have to fight him? One of them would say, as she would say this, specifically, what is her name? As one of them, specifically a girl by the name of Isabella, which she had a mask, covering the half of her face, she would say this. Raiju-sama, Raiju-sama can easily beat him. Besides, he's nothing more than a weak user of a... whatever that thing is. It's probably his sacred gear, one of them would say. Specifically, Isabella, obviously. As one of them would say this. Specifically, as a girl by the name of Yubiluna would say this. Yes, I do... Yeah, I know, I do sort of agree, but... it's still kind of weird that he has this manic grin. Maybe he's just a battle-hungry monster, she would say. As two girls with cat-like ears would say this. Yeah, both of them would say. As, after saying that, we go back to the battlefield, or the arena, as he would say this. Now, let's have some fun, he would say, as he would start charging towards Riser. As Riser would basically fire off a blast of fire, which caused a huge explosion. As Riser would say this. Ha! Like I said, you're not going to... But before he could say anything else, he would see Izuku, basically half of his body being, being on fire. As he would start to regenerate, as he would say this. As he would basically slice him right in the arm, causing him to, causing his arm to be ripped, from his body. After doing so, he would basically jump back as he would say this. What the? How did you... As Izuku would say this. Super regeneration! I guess you'd say we're the same. But without the fire manipulation, he would say, as his body would start to regrow, as he would say this. Now, try this on for size, he would say, as his Rinkaku would shoot off, holy blasts, which caused some of the devils there to basically be surprised. As one of them would say this, wait, are those? As, Sergius Lucifer would just be surprised, as one of them would say this. Yeah, let's just say he has this fixation on DNA, one of them would say. Specifically, Kaneko. As one of them would say this. What do you mean, said, a red-haired man in his 20s. Which is probably, Rios' father. As, one of them would say this, specifically Rios herself. Well, he seems to be fixated on becoming, and I quote, the ultimate being, before he can actually join, her peerage, specifically, looking towards, Sona. As one of them would say this. So you're saying that he's been injecting himself with, the DNA of, multiple creatures, she would say. Specifically, a girl with brownish hair and, I think, goldenish eyes? Let me just check. Nope. Her eyes are basically purple, and when I saw the photo of her, god damn! Jesus Christ! I'm not really far in the anime, or I sort of remember her, but I never thought that I didn't remember her being this fucking cute, god damn! So, as she would say this, that's quite terrifying, she would say. As one of them would say this, yeah, apparently during our time in Kuo, said, he's somewhat scared Kiba, as one of them would say this. Specifically, he say, he's sort of gone the DNA of several fallen angels, including high class, apparently you're called. As one of them would say this. Excuse me, what? Said a blonde-haired man, as he would say this. Well, that certainly is quite interesting, he would say, as you'd think to himself. Well, son, you're doomed, he would say to himself. And I guess that could probably help you with your pride. I mean, I am prideful myself, but at least not as prideful as you, son. So, good luck, he would say to himself. Yeah, that's apparently his father, Lord, Lord Phoenix. And oh boy, his son is gonna get... And so we currently see him still trying to beat up, try and destroy Izuku. As he would say this, what the, how are you, as he would say this, like I said, we're the same, he would say, as he would shoot off another blast of holy energy, slicing off another part of his arm. As he would say this, shit, he would say, as he would try to regrow it, but unfortunately it's not regrowing, as he would say, shit, he would say, as you look towards him, as he would say this, come on, he would say, shoot me with more fire, he would say. As when he said that, he would say, you, as he would start shooting off more blasts of fire, which caused him to basically, causing a bit of his face to be burned off, which caused several people to think, how the fuck is he not dying? As we also currently see some of, Riser's spirit members, as they would say, how in the... As they're just terrified at this point, seeing him getting no damage. And not only that, it's currently being broadcasted all over the underworld. And by the way, causing several people to just be afraid. Like, everybody's just thinking, did the Citrus family have the most fucking terrifying, peerage member imaginable? Like, all of them would start thinking in their minds. As for Riser, he's just, confused, saying to himself, how am I losing? How's he not dying, he would say. And as, before he can think of something else, he would get grabbed by the face, as he would say this. Now, take this, he would say, as he would basically grab him by the face and throwing him into the ground, causing a large crater to basically appear, causing, the barrier to basically be shooketh. Instantly shooketh, as everybody would just feel it, as several people would try to reinforce the barrier, which, by the way, is quite the feat. And after doing so, we currently see Izuku just on top of the body of Riser, as he would say this. You thought that you could actually beat me, he would say, as he would grab Riser by the face again, as he would shoot off blast after blast of holy energy, bursting, some of his body parts, as they would slowly heal, as he would say this. Come on, burst me, try and burn me, he would say. As
it would try, and Riser would try, but he's so weakened to the point that he can only do simple embers. Yeah. As Riser's basically crying at this point, saying, "Stop! Stop!" he would say. As he would say this, "Stop! Why stop with the fun?" he would say. As he would basically throw him up into the sky, as he would say this, "Now, unholy light!" As he would start creating a large blast of, energy, as he would say this, "Now, eminence burn," he would say. As a large blast of holy energy would be thrown towards him, burning him alive, as he would start screaming out in pain, as, you know, we currently see, an absolutely afraid, rabble basically there, aka, Riser's sister, as she would say this, "No, no," she would started crying, as she would start running towards, to the arena, as he would say this, or at least, say to her, say this to herself, "No, no, I won't let her. I don't want my brother to die. I mean, he's quite powerful, but please," she would say to herself, as she would start running towards to the arena. So, back with Izuku. As Izuku is there, just seeing Riser basically in this vulnerable state, as he would say this, "Stop, stop, I'll do anything, please don't," as he would say this. "You truly are pathetic," he would say, as after saying that, he would grab his Quinke, as he would say this, "Now, for my prize," he would say, as he would fire off his Quinke, stabbing into Riser, which caused everybody to be confused, as one of them would say this, "Oh God," said, a terrified Sona, as one of them would say this, "What the heck is that?" said, some confused, audience members. And also some people outside basically, spectating the entire thing. And also, if you're wondering, most of the people there, specifically, Riza's peerage, they already know about this. But they don't really want to talk about it because just knowing that he's able now to basically use the powers of a phoenix. Oh boy! As, well, one of them specifically said this, specifically Saji. Well, the ability of his to basically, gain the abilities of, others, well, that is how he's able to do it. As everybody would just be wide-eyed, as, Lord Phoenix would say this. Well, I guess that would explain his ability to use holy magic, he would start thinking in his mind. Or, holy spears, or whatever you want to call it. As after getting his DAA, a syringe would basically appear out of nowhere. Or, from a compartment, as would stab into his veins. As after doing so, he would start, clenching his head, as he would start laughing and laughing, as his body would start to shift and peel, as two large, phoenix-like wings would basically appear from his back, as he would start laughing. Yes, yes, as after saying that, black flames would basically appear around these, around the newly acquired wings, as he would say this. "Oh, this feels wonderful," he would say, as he would grab his, his Quinke, as he would say this. "Now, let's test these out," as he would start shooting off blasts of fire, which burn, Riser, as Riser would scream out in pain, saying, "It hurts, it hurts," as after saying that, he would start, charging towards him, creating, several slashes of fire with, his Kokaku, which, would damage Riser, which Riser is screaming out in pain, saying, "Stop, stop, stop the match," he would say, as, currently, the advisor of this match is currently, sleeping at this point, thinking to himself, or at least at the time, he would start thinking to himself, yeah, the kid's about to be fucked, so he would probably just get some sleep out of this. Which, let's just say Riser is not, not even, getting a blink of, mercy at this point. And if you're wondering, yeah, I pretty much hate him. It's probably an obvious thought to you. As he would start crying out in pain, saying, "Stop, Bluff, stop, I'll do anything," he would say, as he would say this. "Oh, do anything, you say?" He would start laughing even more. "Oh, you already got everything for me. including the DNA of yours, he would say, as he would create another punch of fire which burns his face, making it unrecognizable. Not only that, not only that, because of his healing factor, it would probably stay that forever, and there's no way for him to basically fix his face. Unless if you do plastic surgery, which there's probably no plastic surgery in hell at all, or the nether realm, or whatever you want to call it, or the underworld, like at all. So, after punching him multiple times, as he would say this, now, I think it's time for me to end this, he would say, as you start creating a large ball of fire which resembles a large meteor. As everybody, and I mean everybody, would notice this, including some people basically outside, would see a large black fireball, almost like a meteor, as you would say this. Now, take this. As he would get ready to basically pull down the meteor of fire, as before he can, he would hear, "Stop!" she would say, as after looking back, he would see Riser's sister, as he would say this. "Oh, why are you here?" he would say, as she would say this. "Stop, please. I don't want my brother to be hurt. Please, stop it," she would say, as he would say this. "Why should I stop? He's a bastard," he would say, "and he deserves to pay with his..." He would deserve to pay for his sins, he would say, with his eyes burning with hatred, as he would be reminded by Bakugo's arrogance, as he would say this. "Arrogance is your downfall, Emmett. Arrogance is his downfall, and this is the judgment for it. The punishment," he would say, as before he can do anything else, one of them specifically, well, Raba would say to stop, she would say, "Please, I don't want my brother to be hurt. I know he's bad, but please," she would say, as after looking at her one last time, he would see the desperation on her face. She wanted to protect her brother, even though he was a bastard. Several people, or more specifically, Riser's peers, would be there, thinking to themselves, "Oh God." All of them would just be terrified seeing Riser in this state. His arms are basically all broken, or basically gone. One of his legs is basically torn off. One of them is even, burned to the point that he can never walk, probably. As when he tried to fly one time, well, let's just say Izuku was not having that, and would basically rip off one of his wings. So currently he's bleeding out at this point, as he would say this. Specifically Izuku. He would basically just sigh, as he would say this. "This is truly getting boring," he would say, as he would snap his fingers as the black fireball would just disappear. After doing so, he would say this. "I'm done," he would say. "I guess I'm the winner," he would say, as he would have a sadistic smile on his face. As after doing so, the announcer would wake up as he would say this. I'm guessing the loser is..." But before he can, he would look towards the monitors and... Wait for a second. Sorry about that. But before he can say anything else, he would see the battered body of, of Riser Phoenix, and seeing him just, right there, just, looking at the, at the boy basically smiling sadistically, while several weird-looking limbs basically, basically all over him, as you would say this. As you would basically say this. The Rias Gremory Spirit wins, he would say. As after saying that, everybody would just be silent at that point. As Izuku would start walking away, as he would say this. "By the way, Miss Phoenix," he would say this. "Next time, if I ever see your brother trying to hurt anybody, including a girl," he would say, as his arms would start transforming, and not only that, his entire body would start to transform, as his body would start shifting and peeling, transforming into a large, fleshy-ass dragon with multiple eyes. Just imagine, how a, what is that called? A Kakuja is. Yeah, this is apparently his Kakuja form. I didn't really draw it at the time because I was too busy with school, god dang it. Seriously, I'm super pretty much pissed off at school right now. Anyway, continuing on, as after doing so, his body would start shifting and peeling, as he would gain multiple heads, with only just one eye on the middle head, as he would say this, "I'll tear his body apart," he would say, as flames would come out of every orifices, like every orifice around his body, including like his back, which were filled with like holes, as not only that, black angel-like wings would basically appear, including phoenix-like wings. Basically, the larger wings are basically like phoenix wings, or I guess you could say devil wings at this point, but whatever, as they would shoot off black fire, as he would roar in rage, as everybody would just be afraid, thinking, what the like, even, Sona would just be surprised seeing this. I mean, she's not really, afraid, but more surprised than anything else. As after doing so, he would transform back, as he would say this. I'm done, he would say. As after saying that, he would start to leave. And so, we're gonna be ending this episode right off here at this point. I think this is probably my favorite episode. Oh my god, I absolutely loved how I made, Izuku at this point, like, Black Air Force energy. So this is going to be the end of this episode. And so, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye.